Hello everybody, my name is Michael Knipp, and I am a biased reviewer. And I don't even give a crap. I'm proud of it. I wanna tell the world if the smile on my face hasn't given me away already. I think that there's this weird stigma when it comes to reviewing, even when it comes to reviewing in a sort of position that I've placed myself in, where I want to pretend that I'm some sort of like professional reviewer, not because like it's my job, but because I want to do it as a professional, you know what I mean? I think there's this stigma, and it's a stigma that I pushed back before in some of my old videos, that reviews are supposed to be this objective look at a book. And I personally, everyone has different review theories, everyone. But I personally think that is just impossible. Every single person has a subjective, unique experience, and they've lived a certain way, and they have certain tastes, and they are going to bring all of these things to the table when they are reviewing books, or anything for that matter. So I always try to emphasize that when it comes to reviewing, reviews are always subjective regardless of what the reviewer says. That's my opinion. Other people do disagree, obviously. I don't even think it's limited to reviewers. Have you ever been with a friend and you're watching a movie, or someone asks your opinion on something that you're really excited about, and you say, well, this is my opinion on it, but I'm biased because I'm a big fan of this thing. Well, no, duh. Why does that have to matter? The thing is, you were a fan of something because at some point, the thing that you're a fan of hooked you. It made you interested in it. It got you excited about it, and you loved it for some reason. That shouldn't be a qualifier in why you're not allowed to talk about that thing or recommend that thing. If anything, it's a reason why you are qualified to recommend that thing. You say, I am a fan of this thing because of this, because it's awesome, because it's exciting. It piqued my interest because it hit all of these points that make me happy. Take some of the biggest fandoms on the internet, like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. There's a lot of Avatar fans around here. On my channel, I saw that there's a pretty big fan base for like Red Rising. Should you, being a massive fan of a series, disqualify you from talking about that series when someone asks about it? The answer is of course not. I think it's insane that we've reached a point where you're like, I'm biased because I love this thing, I can't talk about it. Why would that matter? Can the only people that talk about things be the people that hate it? Or be the people that are neutral about it? Or can't we all be free to talk about it, whether we like it or not? I think in a lot of cases, some of the most extreme, dedicated, like negative sides of fandoms have so influenced our excitement for the things that we love that we sometimes feel like we can't even talk about them anymore. How much does it suck that we've sort of reached this point in society where if you are really, really passionate and excited about something in a positive way, you feel like you can't talk about it because you're too biased to have an objective opinion on it, as if that's a thing. And instead, only people that have a super negative opinion on something, or people that are just like, it's okay, like those are the only people that are allowed to share their thoughts. That's not the case, because guess what? They're also subjective in their reviews. You can have a negative bias towards something, and that's okay too. You can have no connection points for something, and thus feel meh about it. And that's a completely valid opinion, because when it comes to the subjective interpretation of art, which I think pretty much all interpretations of art are, you should not feel like you're not allowed to talk about it because you have extreme emotions on one side or the other. Let's dive deeper into the subjective thing. Is someone that exclusively reads historical fiction and they decide to pick up, I don't know, a hard sci-fi novel, are they going to be able to review that hard sci-fi novel in a way that appeals to a science fiction fan, someone who's constantly reading lots of science fiction? Probably not. Is that a problem? No, but it may be more valuable or less valuable to different audiences. And I think that's a key thing to remember. Lots of different reviewers have different audiences, and generally speaking, the audiences that form around a reviewer form because of certain reasons. Maybe they like the reviewer's tastes. Maybe they don't like the reviewer's tastes, but they think that they're good about talking about certain elements about books. There's so many things that can go into a review. I'm sure that every single person watching this video has seen other people do book reviews, and we all do them differently. I do book reviews differently than X and Y and Z because I have a style that's formulated around the way that I like to talk about books, and generally speaking, the audience that is on my channel has come to appreciate, hopefully in some way, the way that I review books versus the way that someone else reviews books. Guess what? That's kind of a bias. What are the odds that after I've read 12 Cosmere books, when the 13th Cosmere book comes out, I'm probably more likely to like Cosmere book 13 than someone that hasn't entered the Cosmere yet? It's pretty dang high. Does that discount my review of that book when it comes out? Of course not. It's just shaped by the experiences and tastes I already have. I think it's also a misnomer to assume that just because somebody has liked a bunch of books in a series, they're automatically going to like the next book, because how many times have you seen people turn on something midway through a series? It happens quite frequently. How many times have you watched a reviewer give a book a negative review because it has poor prose? How many times have you watched other reviews by people that never mention prose and it never bothers them? It's because we're all looking at these things subjectively based on our own tastes. And you're all watching the reviews subjectively based on your own tastes. I think if we were being honest with ourselves, we could say that most people who ask for objective reviews in comment sections or otherwise really are just looking for reviewers that review books in the way that they think about books. Because it's very likely that they think about books differently than most reviewers. And that's okay. It's good even. I would say this diversity of opinion is what makes discussion fun, is what makes this stuff possible. What's the point of having a Discord server to talk about books or posting a review about books if everyone thinks about them the same way, if there's some objective way to look at a book to where everyone has to see it this exact way and there's really no room for discussion or arguing or seeing different people's opinions? What's the point of that? If it's objective, there's no point. There's so many different reasons why having different people's takes on the same thing are interesting. Sometimes you want to see a take from someone that is extremely immersed in a genre, and you want to know that compared to the vast wealth of fantasy books that this fantasy reviewer has read, how does it compare? And sometimes you want to say, hey, for somebody who doesn't normally read fantasy, how does this one work? Is this one good for you? That's why I'm always encouraging people to read different things, to try different things, to watch different channels, and heck, to start your own channel, because all of these things are what make BookTube and the Bookternet fun. I'd go so far as to say that people who say that there are objective reviews or say that you can't have an opinion on something because of X, Y, Z is that person being a little bit gatekeepy. And if there's anything that frustrates me about the discourse of books on the internet, it's people that try to shut down other people from saying their opinion. Because every single one of us watching this video, every single person who will hear these words that I'm saying and that will see the video that I'm hopefully uploading to the internet is an individual person, an individual, unique, special, wonderful person with their own original thoughts and their own ways of absorbing information, their own life experiences, and their own ways that these stories can be interpreted and applied into people's inner consciousness, and discussing those things and relating on the elements where we can relate and finding out more about each other on the ways that we disagree and the stories that we disagree on and the elements of stories that can hit people differently is the whole point. That's the wonderful thing about BookTube, about the Bookternet, about reading and talking about books with your friends. That's the whole reason we do this community thing. Because you are an individual person. You have your own soul, and your opinion, biased as it is so valuable. It's what I want to hear when I post a review. It's hopefully what you want to see when I post a video, because being able to come together about something that is not as charged usually as some of the other discussion points that exist in the world, using these fictional topics as a way to sometimes discuss just fun things and sometimes discuss deeper things in a way that isn't as hard to do in a communal setting is the wonderful thing that we're here for. As an additional point to this, I think it's so easy when you have extremely strong opinions about a book that when you go out and you find reviews and there are people that disagree with you, I think it's extremely easy, subconsciously, I do this myself all the time, to ascribe different motives for why reviewers may have certain takes on a book. Like, hey, they just had a hot take because they wanted the clicks. Or, hey, they just had a hot take because of this. Or, they just had a hot take because they always complain about this element in a book. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But doing our best and assuming that everyone is being honest with their intentions when they're making these videos, that shouldn't matter. Because as I said before, every single reviewer is going to come into every single book biased on their own tastes, likes, dislikes, etc. Let's just stop and think about it. What are subjective elements that we can talk about in a review? How good the prose is, how good the story is told, how interesting the characters are, how well the pacing works, how good the story is, how unpredictable the story is. What are some objective things that we can talk about in a book review? Sales, page count, the author? I'm running low. Please, if you have any other ideas, let me know in the comments down below. Every single other thing that was popping to my mind is totally something that's subject to interpretation. Now that I've said all of these things, there's a couple things that I will say that are semi-relevant to some topics that are probably ever present in the book community. And the first one I'll say is, if you are a really, really big fan of something and someone makes a review of all of the reasons why they are not a really big fan of said thing, a really ineffective way of trying to change their mind or maybe convince them that that thing is cool for other people is to be a jerk and jump down their throats for either saying they're not reviewing something objectively enough or they didn't understand it correctly, thus they're, not smart enough for it. These are the types of behaviors that start making your fandom look like jerks. And this is the type of behavior that when people are neutral on a series or they're not sure if they want to read something, when this behavior pops up, it makes people not want to read your favorite thing. There are ways to agree to disagree in ways that can make your community seem like one that people want to be a part of. You should probably try going for those options. Because if you really do want people to like the things that you like, you should make it seem attractive to people. And on the flip side, we all are so different. Maybe when you read a book that you don't like and you really, really don't like it, it can be valuable to try to figure out why other people might like it and understand that even if it isn't for you, there are some redeeming qualities that you might be able to understand why other people might like it. And you can talk about it however you want to, but maybe if you're talking about it in a space where there's lots of fans, it can be valuable to know that those fans may be fans of it for something that maybe you missed, maybe they have different tastes, and that's good too. We don't have to ascribe to them every negative thought that we had about the book, as if our interpretation of the book is immediately applicable to every person that's part of that fandom. And if we thought a book did something badly or poorly, that every single person of the fandom is guilty of the same thing. Maybe you think I'm crazy and I'm way off base. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Last time I tried to post a reviews are entirely subjective video, I still had some pushback. And I loved that pushback because I love to see other people's opinions, even if I disagree with them ultimately. As I asked for before, what are some other elements of a book review that you think could be entirely objective and not subject to interpretation? It's been a while since I talked about this, so I'm going to plug one of my old video series. For a very long time, I judged Twilight fans a certain way based on the cultural reception of Twilight. It was extremely gatekeepy, it was extremely judgy, and when I finally spent some time to try to understand why the series was the way it was and why people might like it, I ended up appreciating it on some level. And I had a lot of fun with it, I made a lot of friends, and I feel like I was able to understand a whole new group of people on another level in a way that was extremely valuable to me. That experience for me was so awesome, and I tried to replicate it in small ways as I can with the books that I'm reading and the people that I try to engage with. It's the number one reason that this book keeps tempting me on my bookshelf. And I just want to say that I'm not the only person that could have that experience if they wanted to. And I think that would be awesome if we could all learn a little bit more about how to relate to each other with something like fun fiction that doesn't have to be as consequential as more explosive things. Anyway, thank you for watching this rant. I hope it made some sense. I feel like it's incoherent, but also it's very late when I'm recording this. Please discuss this video in the comments down below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you think I'm crazy, give it a thumbs down. If you'd like to discuss this even more in depth, please join the Discord server. I have a bunch of friends there, and I think it would be a lot of fun to discuss this if we have different opinions on, different elements of this. If you'd like to see more videos from me, and you'd like to see me sort of apply these things to the books that I read, please hit the subscription button. And if you hit the bell, you'll get notified whenever I post a new video. Generally, I do post a lot of reviews, but I've been in a little bit of a reading slump lately. I'm coming out of it now, by the way. I'm excited about what I'm reading. If you'd like to support the channel financially, there's a link to a merch store down below. There's also a link to my Patreon down below where we have exclusive book discussions and parties where we get together and play games. I'm hoping to incorporate even more things into the Patreon soon. I also have a P.O. box down below and links to the gear that I use to make these videos. I hope that I didn't make anybody mad. I hope to see you guys again sometime soon. No one has to listen to me when it comes to me ranting about this kind of stuff. It's just stuff that I'm passionate about. But hey, I'm not your dad, but I am your best friend. Bye.
Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.